Hey, it's Win. How are you all doing in the new year? Today, I'll be sharing with you my process of how I draw emotes, and I'll kind of talk you guys through it. So, today's speed paint is my latest project. I've spent about 2 to 3 days on it, drawing little hedgehog emotes. It's currently available on my Etsy. So, without further ado, let's dig in. Step 1. Sketching out our ideas. When you first start making emotes, it's good to come up with a plan of what you want to do and come up with your sketches. Feel free to experiment and change things as you see fit. So as you can see in my speed paint, I tend to have a habit of writing down my ideas first, as well as make some simple tiny doodles based on references that I might have pulled up on places like Pinterest or Google Images. Warm-up is important to me because I feel like if it's the first time you're drawing something, especially when it comes to animals, you might not catch certain features, so doing these doodles will kind of refresh or introduce you to these little details that will make your emotes more believable, so to speak. And after some warm-up, you're all ready to sketch. So the sketch is very important, and I would think it might be the most important part of emote making because it helps you develop your ideas, and it will also save you a lot of headache later on. Your sketch can be as messy or clean as you want it to be because we're just gonna go over with line art in the end. So do what you need to help you develop your ideas fully. If you ever get stuck in the sketching phase, I do suggest looking up at references of other people's art or looking up at real life references of your subject. The main thing I struggled with when I first started making emotes was deciding how much detail I can squeeze into each emote. Over time, you kind of get a sense of, maybe 75% of the drawing should be the face and so on. But starting out, sometimes you want to add many things, you get overly excited, and it happens, and it's fine. A very common example of over squeezing details might be wanting to draw an entire body, or for example, when it comes to emotes, sometimes you have little mascots accompanying, say, a human character, and you want to have both of them in frame, but because you have two subjects in the emote, then there must be some sacrifice made so that both of them can be seen clearly from a distance. In order to reduce the chances of this happening, I do suggest that you frequently zoom out from your drawing, because sometimes it's common to get fixated on the small details or just drawing the sketch. Even at like a medium size, you might not notice it until you really zoom out. So zooming out frequently will give you a better sense of what your emote will eventually look like. Step 2. Doing the line art. Now that we're done with the sketches, we'll move on to the line art. Depending on how big your canvas is, the thickness of your brush will vary. In my case, I have a habit of writing down my brush sizes as well as the different increments that I'll be using for different kinds of lines. If you're an absolute beginner, I do also recommend using tools like stabilization or line tools to help you draw smooth lines. I also tend to draw my line art on vector layers. I use Clip Studio Paint, so the difference between like a normal layer and a vector layer is that if, let's say, I draw my line art and I realize, the line is too thick for my liking or too thin, I can easily go into the settings and increase or decrease the line weight without needing to redraw the line. So for me, that's very handy, and I think it would benefit beginners as well. Additionally, another benefit to using vector layers is that you can resize the layer without losing quality of the line. You know, sometimes when you enlarge a layer too much, when you increase your canvas size, it might look blurry, but for vector layers, that issue doesn't exist. However, I would say there is a hassle to using vector layers in Clip Studio Paint, which I personally, maybe I'm a noob and I haven't found a way to circumvent it easily, which is that unlike a normal layer, when you want to recolor your vector layer lines, you will have to convert the entire layer or clip on another layer and color it over, whereas if you were using a normal layer, you can just lock it and color over it. But I think that's really a preference, so use what makes you feel comfortable and makes it easier for you to draw. Moving on from that, I would also suggest for absolute beginners to pay attention to your line weight, meaning your line thickness. Always have thicker outer lines and thinner inner lines. However, there are certain cases where you'll want to use slightly thicker lines in the inside of the emote. For example, if you want to draw attention to certain features like the eyes or the hands, you can opt to make the lines slightly thicker than, let's say, you would normally use. Aside from caring about line weight, I would also suggest when it comes to coloring line art, either using a pure black or a dark brown or a darker version of whatever color that you are going to use for your subject, because it would greatly help your emote stand out from wherever it's being used. And should you struggle to put emphasis on certain features of the body, let's say you have a hand that you want to stand out from the rest of the skin tone, you can always draw a white border around it, and that should also help. For slightly more experimental and advanced artists, you can always add gradients to your line art. It will make it a little bit more flashy, and I think as long as you remember that the outer borders must be dark enough and the inner lines mustn't be too faint, the emote should appear perfectly fine. Step 3. Coloring. Now we're moving on to coloring. As usual, put on your base colors according to the parts, and then the fun part begins. As emotes tend to be small when viewed, it is not necessary to put too many details as compared to, say, an illustration, so stick to what's important to you. In my case, I like putting on blush and as well as shadows on my hedgehogs. However, if we were drawing human characters today, I think my focus would be on drawing cute little highlights on parts of the face or to emphasize the top of their head. I think this part of the emote will really show the viewer your personality and what you like as an artist and how you draw. So feel free to experiment and don't be afraid, because there's an undo button. You can always undo anytime. We are now at the final step, refinement stage. Depending on the emote you're making, you might choose to add an additional white border to your emote. This is handy for increasing visibility on screens that are using night or dark mode, because like we said earlier, we tend to draw the borders of the emote in a darker color. It's very common nowadays to see people using applications in night mode or dark mode whereby the screen is black or dark gray, so the emotes might not appear as obvious. So I do suggest a white border. It can be as thin as you want, just to give a little bit of separation between the emote and the background. In this case, I did add it for my hedgehogs because I realized that due to how dark the quills of the hedgehog is, the white border will greatly improve the visibility on dark mode screens. Ta-da! And we're all done! Isn't it simple? At the end of the day, an emote is just like any other drawing you'll do, and I'm sure you'll be able to make an emote that you'll be happy with just a little bit of time invested. Just be patient and I'm sure you'll get there. If you want to adopt my little hedgehog emotes, please support me via my Etsy store. Link is in the description below, and or search for Win4343 on Etsy's search bar. As always, thank you for watching and subscribe for more. Have a smooth new year and let's make more wonderful art together. Goodbye!